In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You've got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Monday, October 10th. I'm Donal Ware. We've already completed 6 weeks in HBCU football. We're midway through the season. So we're going to talk, not today, but we're going to talk this week a lot about the midway point of the HBCU football season. It's Manic Monday on the program, so you know how we do things here. We're going to take a look at the Week 6 scoreboard. It was Jackson State over Alabama State in Montgomery, Alabama, 26-12. Jackson State quarterback Shedeur Sanders, 3 more touchdowns in the ball game. And you look at this game, we're going to have a lot more from this game on Takeaway Tuesday. Eddie Robinson Jr., the head football coach at Alabama State, had a lot to say after this game. Want to look more into it and make sure I have all of the information before I speak on it, but definitely going to talk about it on Takeaway Tuesday. In one of the HBCU national games of the week, Florida A&M defeated South Carolina State 20-14. Again, this is an old MEAC rivalry. And I'll tell you, I did say that I thought that Florida A&M would win this game even in Orangeburg. You remember, if you listened to the weekend edition of Box to Row, you heard our celebrity guest picker, Michael Ealy, the actor Michael Ealy, also picked Florida A&M in this football game, and we'll have more from this on Takeaway Tuesday. But South Carolina State got down in this football game 20-0, made a little bit of a comeback, but Florida A&M stood tall. And you look at Florida A&M right now, playing some pretty good football, got off to that slow start, losing the first 2 games of the season, Carolina, then Jackson State. Since then, Florida A&M has won 4 straight football games. We remember how it started for Florida A&M with the whole the players weren't eligible and so forth, hadn't been certified, hadn't been cleared, but Willie Simmons and his staff and those Rattlers have things back on track. Tennessee State getting its first victory of the season, 41-17 over Bethune-Cookman. So Bethune-Cookman had a nice win going back a couple of weeks ago, but not so much these last couple of weeks for the Wildcats. In double overtime, Alabama A&M able to squeak out a victory over Grambling, 37-31, and Alabama A&M has now made it 2 straight victories. And if you're Alabama A&M, and Alabama A&M started the season out 0-4, you just want to give yourself an opportunity to be able to compete for the SWAC championship. Had a couple of FBS games, non-conference games, did have the 1 conference loss, but now 2-1, still in position to win the Eastern Division. A lot of season left to play, no doubt, but that's all you want to be at this point. You still want to be in position, and Alabama A&M is. Meanwhile, Grambling is not. Alcorn State, after an off week, comes back to play this week, defeats Mississippi Valley State 30-7. Valley has yet to win a football game this year. Meanwhile, you look at Alcorn State. Alcorn State started out kind of slow, continues to roll as Fred McNair has his guys playing some really good football. In a statement game, in a game in which the head coach of one team was the head coach of the team that he was playing. His team was playing the previous year. So in other words, to put it a little bit more simply, right? Eric Dooley, now the head football coach at Southern, former head football coach at Prairie View A&M, his Southern Jaguars absolutely made a statement and destroyed Prairie View A&M 45-13. You got to know Southern was ready for this football game. Maybe looked ahead, going back to last week's loss. Maybe looked a little bit ahead, but did not look past. But that said, prepared for this game. So now, even though Prairie View A&M was on a bit of a roll, right? Southern has put itself in contention for that Western Division crown. I mean, Prairie View A&M is still right there as well, but Southern holds the head-to-head advantage. Southern quarterback was phenomenal in this football game, in the running for HBCU National Player of the Week, which will be announced a little bit later on today on boxtorow.com. Texas Southern made it 2 wins on the season, getting past Arkansas Pine Bluff 24-17. Boy, Arkansas Pine Bluff is struggling. A couple of wins this season over not really non. And going back, okay, Arkansas Pine Bluff started the season 2-0. To me, even though you didn't play the stiffest of competition, to me, it was one of those things where, okay, that's fine. But I think it was a confidence builder, maybe some momentum. A win is a win a lot of times. It's hard to win in football and college football in particular. But I mean, Arkansas Pine Bluff has lost 4 straight games. And remember, the Golden Lions are just 2 seasons removed from playing in the SWAC championship game, going back to the spring of 2021. It looked promising from that point on, but it just hasn't gone well for Arkansas Pine Bluff since appearing in that SWAC championship game in spring of 2021. In a game that I was at, it was homecoming in Baltimore at Morgan State. You look at Norfolk State looking for its first victory of the season. More importantly, this was a MEAC game, first MEAC game for any of the team, any MEAC play this season. And Norfolk State was up 17-7. Morgan State came back. As a matter of fact, I'm here to tell you, Alfonso Graham, look out for that young man, that kid, the running back for Morgan State. Really, really good. Had 203 yards rushing. He gets a 51-yard touchdown run with about 2 minutes remaining. Morgan takes its first lead of the game. The score at that time was 21-17. So now if you're Morgan, a touchdown has to beat you. And Norfolk State moved right down the field, 6 or 7 plays, ultimately got the touchdown with like 6 seconds remaining with the backup quarterback and able to eke that game out. It's a big win for Norfolk. Not only its first of the season, but now in MEAC play, you're 1-0, right? And looking for that. It doesn't matter that Norfolk State started the season necessarily. Doesn't mean anything that Norfolk started the season 0-5. Hampton, 2 straight losses coming off the bye, this time falling to Maine 31-24 in CAA play. It was Fort Valley State defeating Central State 32-17. Fort Valley State rebounds from its loss last week against Benedict. Johnson C. Smith defeated Shaw 22-18. Boy, if you're Shaw, you've got to be disappointed at this point because you were looking to win that Southern Division. Now with 2 losses, I think Fayetteville State, Shaw and Fayetteville State still have the head-to-head matchup, but I just don't see where Fayetteville State's going to lose another game. Fayetteville State at this point would now have to lose 2 games and Shaw would have to beat Fayetteville State. So there's still a chance there. But if you're Shaw, I get it. Johnson C. Smith's won a couple of games here. But if you're Shaw, now it puts Johnson C. Smith in somewhat of contention. Still needing Fayetteville State to lose, and I believe John C. Smith and Fayetteville State haven't played yet, so that would be a head-to-head matchup. I believe. I don't have that in front of me, but if that's the case, then John C. Smith has put itself in position. But Shaw was one of the favorites, and I mean, you have the former assistant at Shaw, now the head coach at Johnson C. Smith. But if you're Shaw, boy, that's a game that you definitely have to win. The struggles continue for Winston-Salem State, falling to Livingstone 20-17. Livingstone now has 2 wins on the season. Shawan squeaked by Lincoln of Pennsylvania 16-14. But like I said, I mean, Lincoln is playing some good football in contention, right? Playing close football games, and you got to really like that for Lincoln. West Virginia State still keeping itself alive in the Mountain East Conference, defeated West Virginia Wesleyan 46-21. Virginia Union blowing past Elizabeth City State 49-0. The Panthers on a roll. And don't forget, on tomorrow, the HBCU Division II coaches poll, powered by Box to Row, comes out on tomorrow. We'll see if Virginia Union is in the HBCU media poll, which will come out a little bit later on today. It was Kentucky State defeating Lane 31-26. Kentucky State's won a couple of games here. Lane coming off that big upset victory last week over Tennessee State and could not capitalize. Lane, but fortunately for Lane, only its first loss of the season in SIAC play. Lincoln of Missouri, the struggles continue, falling to Missouri Southern 37-16. Benedict remains undefeated on the season, defeated Miles 20-3. Fayetteville State, as I mentioned, continues to roll, defeat St. Aug's 54-0. So let me back up to the Shaw thing that I was talking about. I got to sort of backtrack a little bit here because Fayetteville State has the one loss now, has one loss in conference play. So Shaw's still right there. It's John C. Smith too. A head-to-head win would mean you have the head-to-head. You both have 2 losses. Well, guess what? The head-to-head would make the difference in the Southern Division. So it's not as bleak for Shaw, but man, if you're Shaw, and again, Johnson C. Smith still right there as well. Savannah State defeats Virginia University of Lynchburg 28-14. Okay, in the game, I believe I have to go back and listen to the tape, but in the game, I believe I got wrong. The other HBCU national game of the week, Bowie State rolled past Virginia State 41-14, crushed Virginia State. Virginia State was on a bit of a roll, but Bowie State said not so fast. Even though Bowie State had lost a couple of games, that's a huge win for Bowie State. And now it sets up the showdown next weekend between Virginia Union and Bowie State. I think, again, Virginia State with the one loss now, I think it hurts. That Northern Division, I don't know if you get out of the Northern Division with one loss. I think the Northern Division champion will be undefeated on the season. It was Clark Atlanta getting past Allen 42-41. Allen hasn't won a game, but is playing first year in the SIAC, playing some good football and scoring a lot of points. That's what Allen is doing, but just can't quite get over the hump. Albany State all over Edward Waters 55-7. And guess what? Edward Waters on Saturday has to travel to Greensboro to take on North Carolina A&T. In that big Morehouse-Tuskegee Classic in Birmingham, it was Tuskegee over Morehouse 31-14. Tuskegee continues to roll, remains undefeated in SIAC play. Florida A&M Warner canceled due to Hurricane Ian from last week. Texas College loses a game to Ottawa 56-0, and another game canceled because of Hurricane Ian, Bluefield State and Fort Lauderdale. So you have still a couple of teams that are undefeated in terms of HBCUs. You're looking at Jackson State. You're looking at Benedict, who remains undefeated, and Langston, who did not play this weekend, also is undefeated on the season through 6 weeks in HBCU football. So that's a look at the Week 6 scoreboard tomorrow, Takeaway Tuesday. We got a lot to get to on Takeaway Tuesday on tomorrow. Don't forget, a little bit later on today, you can check out the HBCU coaches and media polls that are going to be released a little bit later on today on our website at box2row.com. And you can also check out the HBCU National Players of the Week. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where you can find us on our website at box2row.com. You can also find us on iHeartMedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts, as well as watching the podcast on the Box to Row YouTube page. Can't wait for Takeaway Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at box2row.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.